and a huge welcome back to the Speak Easy English podcast. I'm Emily, and I'm so excited to be diving into a really meaty topic with you today, one that lies at the heart of why many of you are listening.
And hello from me, I'm Tommy. It's fantastic to be back in the virtual studio. Yes, Emily, today we're going beyond just dipping our toes in the water. We're taking a deep dive into that challenging, sometimes mysterious, but ultimately incredibly rewarding journey from understanding English passively, reading, listening, knowing the rules, to actually speaking it with confidence, ease, and a sense of natural flow in real-life conversations.
Precisely. We touched on this before, but today we want to really unpack it. That gap between passive knowledge and active use, it can feel like a chasm for so many learners. You might spend hours studying grammar, meticulously building vocabulary lists with apps like Anki or Quizlet. You might understand movies or podcasts quite well. But then comes the moment of truth. A colleague asks your opinion in a meeting, you bump into an English-speaking neighbor, or you try to join a discussion online and suddenly, silence. Or perhaps a few halting words come out, feeling awkward and unnatural.
Oh, that feeling is almost universal, isn't it? The deer in headlights moment. Your brain, which felt so full of English knowledge just moments before, suddenly feels completely empty. Or maybe you can formulate a sentence, but it takes so long, the conversation has moved on. Or you manage to speak, but you're hyper-aware of every single word, constantly translating in your head, terrified of making a mistake. Does that internal monologue sound familiar? Is this the right tense? Did I use the correct preposition? Oh no, my pronunciation of that word was terrible. They must think I sound stupid.
Absolutely. That internal critic can be so loud, Tommy. And it often stems from one major roadblock: the fear of making mistakes. Let's spend some real time on this because it's fundamental. Why are we so afraid? Often, it's rooted in our early experiences of learning, perhaps in school systems where errors were penalized, red marks all over our papers. We internalize this idea that mistakes are bad, something to be avoided at all costs.
That's a great point about educational background. And there's also the social aspect, the fear of judgment. We worry about how others will perceive us. Will they think we're unintelligent? Will they get impatient? Will they laugh at our accent or our grammatical errors? This fear can be paralyzing. It makes us clam up, stick to safe, simple sentences, or avoid speaking situations altogether.
Exactly. And let's break down the types of mistakes we fear. There's grammar, using the wrong tense, like saying, I go yesterday instead of I went yesterday. Incorrect prepositions, listen music instead of listen to music, or word order issues. Then there's vocabulary, using the wrong word, not being able to find the right word, or using a word in an unnatural context. And of course, pronunciation, mispronouncing sounds, having a strong accent that might impede understanding, or using unnatural intonation. We worry about all of these.
And the irony is, native speakers make mistakes all the time. We use sentence fragments. We self-correct. I went to the store. Actually, no, it was the market. We use informal grammar. Who'd you give it to? We stumble over words. Communication is messy. The key difference is native speakers usually aren't afraid of these imperfections. They're focused on conveying meaning.
So, the first major mental shift required is reframing mistakes. Instead of seeing them as failures, we need to see them as essential stepping stones, as evidence of learning and growth. Every time you make a mistake, especially if you notice it or someone gently corrects you, it's a valuable piece of data. It highlights an area where your understanding or production needs a bit more work. It's not a reflection of your intelligence, it's just part of the process. Think of a toddler learning to walk. They fall down constantly. Do we judge them? No, we know it's how they learn to balance and coordinate. Language learning is similar.
I love that analogy. Embrace the stumble. And related to the fear of mistakes is perfectionism. This is the belief that you need to speak perfectly before you speak at all. It leads to long, awkward pauses while you mentally construct the ideal sentence. It might lead you to use overly complex grammar or vocabulary that you're not comfortable with, ironically increasing the chance of errors or sounding unnatural.
Yes, perfectionism is the enemy of fluency. Fluency is about flow, about keeping the conversation moving, even if it's not grammatically perfect. Effective communicators use strategies like circumlocution, describing a word or concept when they don't know the exact term. For example, if you forget the word corkscrew, you could say, you know, the thing you use to open a wine bottle. That keeps the conversation going. Perfectionists often just stop, embarrassed they don't know the word.
Great example. So, step 1. Acknowledge the fear, reframe mistakes, and ditch the perfectionism. Give yourself permission to be understood, not to be flawless. Mental shift underway. What are the practical actions, Emily? How do we actually start speaking more?
We mentioned starting small, but let's really elaborate here. We're talking micro interactions. The goal is simply to open your mouth and produce English sounds in a real world context, however brief. Greetings. Don't just nod at the shopkeeper. Say, good morning. Hello. Thanks. Have a good day. Ordering. Practice ordering coffee, tea, a sandwich. Can I get a large latte, please? Just a black coffee to go. Memorize these simple scripts. Simple questions. Ask for the time. Excuse me, do you have the time? Ask for simple directions. Sorry, where is the nearest bus stop? Basic transactions. Phrases used when paying, can I pay by card? Zrenia, here you go. Keep the change. Minimal responses. In a conversation you're mostly listening to, use active listening cues like, really? Zrenia. Oh, я вижу. Это интересно. These show engagement without requiring complex sentences. Commenting on the obvious. It's quite chilly today, isn't it? This bus is crowded. Simple observations that open the door to potential interaction.
These seem almost trivial, but they add up, don't they? Each tiny, successful interaction builds a micro layer of confidence. It proves to your brain, see, I spoke English, and the world didn't end. And it makes the next, slightly bigger step less daunting. From ordering coffee, maybe you progress to asking the barista a simple question, like, is the blueberry muffin fresh today? It's gradual exposure therapy for speaking.
Exactly. Gradual exposure. And building on that, let's revisit. Preparation. We mentioned it briefly, but let's detail it. Preparation isn't about writing a full script, which sounds robotic. It's about anticipating and equipping yourself. Scenario planning. Think about upcoming situations. Job interview. Brainstorm common questions. Tell me about yourself. Why do you want this job? And practice concise answers. Meeting new people at a party? Think of conversation starters. How do you know the host? Zrenia, what do you do for work, fun? Parent-teacher meeting? Note down specific questions about your child's progress. Vocabulary and phrase mining. Before the event, actively look for relevant language. If you have a meeting about a specific project, review project-related terminology. Going to a restaurant? Look up menu items and ordering phrases online beforehand. Joining a book club? Prepare some opinions and questions about the book. Use online dictionaries, forums, like Reddit subs related to your interests, or even ChatGPT to gather useful phrases. Mental rehearsal. Run through the potential conversation in your head. Imagine yourself speaking confidently, using the phrases you prepared. Visualize success. This mental practice can genuinely reduce anxiety.
That's incredibly practical. Having that mental toolkit, even if you don't use everything you prepared, provides a huge psychological safety net. It combats that mind-blank panic. Now, you also mentioned active listening, Emily. Let's unpack that further. It's not just about being silent while the other person talks.
Not at all. Active listening is a dynamic process. It means paying full attention, put away your phone, make eye contact, appropriately for the culture, lean in slightly, show you're engaged, listening to understand, not just reply. Focus on grasping their message, their tone, their underlying meaning. Don't just formulate your response while they're still talking. Using verbal and nonverbal cues, nod. Use those minimal responses we mentioned. Uh-huh. Okay. Right. This encourages the speaker, asking clarifying questions. This is crucial. Don't pretend to understand if you don't. It's perfectly okay and actually shows engagement to ask, "Sorry, could you say that again? I'm not sure I follow. Could you explain that part again?" What does specific word phrase mean? So, if I understand correctly, you're saying that paraphrasing. Paraphrasing and summarizing. Briefly restating what you heard. So you felt frustrated because confirms understanding and keeps you involved.
Asking for clarification is such an underrated skill. Learners often feel embarrassed, like it exposes their lack of knowledge. But native speakers ask for clarification all the time. It's a normal part of communication. And active listening truly takes the pressure off. You realize conversation is a dance, a back and forth, not just a monologue you have to deliver perfectly. Plus, as you said, you absorb so much natural language this way. How people really talk.
Exactly. Now, where can learners find opportunities for this listening and, crucially, for speaking practice? We need regular exposure and interaction, language exchange partners, platforms like Tandem, HelloTalk, Speaky connect you with native speakers learning your language. Tips for success. Be clear about your goals. Structure your sessions, e.g., 30 minutes English, 30 minutes partner's language. Be patient and reliable. Find someone you genuinely connect with. Shared interests make conversation flow better. Don't be afraid to break up with a partner who isn't a good fit or is unreliable. Online tutors. Sites like italki, Preply, Cambly offer paid lessons. Tips for success. Choose between professional teachers, structured lessons, and community tutors. Informal conversation practice. Watch intro videos to find a personality you like. Have specific goals for your lessons. E.g., I want to practice discussing current events. Help me with my presentation. Don't be passive. Ask questions, bring topics. Even 30 minutes a week consistently is hugely beneficial. Conversation clubs. Look for local groups, libraries, community centers, universities, or online clubs. Meetup. Specific Facebook groups. Tips for success. Don't be intimidated by group settings. Listen first. Prepare a small introduction for yourself. Try to speak to different people. It's okay if you only say a few sentences at first. Consistency is key. Immersive hobby groups. Join clubs or groups based on your interests where English is the language used. Online gaming communities, international book clubs, local hiking groups with expats, online forums related to your hobbies. This integrates practice into something you enjoy. Work-study environment. If applicable, actively seek opportunities to speak English with colleagues or classmates. Volunteer for presentations, join cross-departmental projects, initiate conversations during breaks.
That's a comprehensive list of options. There really are ways, even if you're not living in an English-speaking country. It requires proactivity, though. You have to seek out these opportunities. And what about practice you can do entirely on your own? We mentioned talking to yourself. Let's expand on how to make that productive.
Right. It's not just muttering. Make it structured. Narrate your actions. As you cook, clean, or get ready, describe what you're doing, step by step, out loud in English. Okay, now I'm chopping the onions. I need to be careful not to cut myself. Next, I'll heat up the pan. Summarize content. After watching a YouTube video, a TV show episode, or reading an article, summarize the main points out loud. What happened? What was the key message? What was your opinion? Plan your day, week. Talk through your schedule, your to-do list, your goals. This afternoon, I need to finish that report. Then I'm going to the gym. I should remember to pack my water bottle. Argue both sides. Pick a simple topic. Cats versus dogs, remote work versus office work. And try to argue both perspectives out loud. This forces you to use different vocabulary and sentence structures. Practice specific scenarios. Rehearse those prepared phrases for upcoming situations, ordering coffee, asking for directions, out loud.
These turn everyday moments into mini lessons. And the voice recording technique? How can learners use that most effectively without just cringing at their own voice?
The cringe factor is real initially, but it's so valuable. Here's how to approach it. Record short segments. Don't record an hour-long monologue. Record yourself answering a specific question, summarizing something briefly, or reading a short paragraph. 1 to 2 minutes is plenty. Listen with specific goals. Don't just listen passively. Listen actively for hesitations and fillers. Where do you pause awkwardly? Do you overuse, like? Note, some fillers are natural, but excessive use can hinder clarity. Pronunciation issues. Are there specific sounds you consistently struggle with? Listen for word stress. Are you emphasizing the right syllables? Is your intonation flat or unnatural? Grammar mistakes. Did you use the right tense? Correct prepositions? Notice recurring errors. Vocabulary gaps. Were there moments you searched for a word? Note them down to look up later. Fluency and pace. Do you speak too slowly or too quickly? Is the rhythm choppy? Focus on one thing at a time. Don't try to fix everything at once. Maybe this week, focus just on reducing unnecessary fillers. Next week, work on the T-ash sound. Re-record. After identifying an issue, try recording the same segment again, focusing on improving that one aspect. Compare the recordings. Progress.
That structured approach makes it much less overwhelming and more actionable. And it leads nicely into pronunciation and intonation. We agreed perfect native accents aren't the goal, but clarity exceeds. Let's dive deeper here.
Absolutely. Comprehensibility is key. Problem sounds. Identify sounds that are difficult because they don't exist in your native language. The English th sounds theta and theta. Different vowel sounds like I in ship versus I in sheep. The distinction between L and R for some learners, consonant clusters like strengths. Use resources like YouTube channels dedicated to phonetics, pronunciation dictionaries like Forvo, where native speakers pronounce words, or apps like Elsa Speak. Practice minimal pairs of words differing by only one sound, like ship, sheep. Word stress. English is a stress time language. Emphasizing the wrong syllable in a word can make it unrecognizable. PHO to graph versus photographer. Learn the stress patterns of new words. Dictionaries usually indicate stress. Sentence. Stress. In a sentence, we stress content words, nouns, main verbs, adjectives, adverbs, and glide over function words, prepositions, articles, auxiliary verbs. I went to the store to buy some bread. Listening and mimicking helps internalize this rhythm. Intonation. The music of English. Rising intonation for yes-no questions. Falling intonation for statements and way-out questions. Rising-falling for expressing surprise or making lists. Flat intonation can sound robotic or uninterested. Again, listen to native speakers intently and try to shadow. Repeat immediately after them, mimicking the tune.
Shadowing is such a powerful technique for intonation and rhythm. Find speakers you like the sound of, actors, podcast hosts, and mimic short chunks of their speech. And let's connect this back to vocabulary and grammar in conversation. It's not just about knowing rules and words, but using them dynamically.
Exactly. Conversational English relies heavily on phrasal verbs. These multi-word verbs, verb plus preposition or adverb like look up, give in, carry on, are ubiquitous. Learn them in context, not just lists. Notice how they're used in dialogues or texts. Try using one new one each day. Idioms, phrases where the meaning isn't literal. Kick the bucket, bite off more than you can chew. Use them sparingly at first, and only when you're sure of the meaning and context. Overuse can sound unnatural. Focus on understanding common ones you hear. Collocations, words that naturally go together. Strong coffee, not powerful coffee. Make a mistake, not do a mistake. Heavy rain, not strong rain. Noticing and using natural word combinations makes your English sound much more native-like. Reading widely helps you absorb these. Simpler grammar, used well. Don't feel pressured to use complex tenses like the past perfect continuous if you're not comfortable. Often, simpler structures, simple past, present continuous, are perfectly adequate and clearer than a complex sentence used incorrectly. Focus on mastering the fundamentals first. Circumlocution and communication strategies. Practice describing things when you lack the specific word. Use phrases like «it's a kind of», «зрение», «это похоже на», «зрение», «вы используете его для». Learn filler phrases to give yourself thinking time naturally. Well, let me see. It's similar to. You use it for. Learn filler phrases to give yourself thinking time naturally. Well, let me see. That's an interesting question. Actually,
That point about simpler grammar is so important. Clarity trumps complexity. And the strategic use of fillers. Native speakers use them all the time. You know, like, I mean, sort of. Not just to pause, but sometimes to soften statements, to connect ideas, or to check understanding. Learning to use a few appropriately can actually make you sound more fluent, paradoxically.
it's true. It's about finding that balance. Now, we've talked a lot about skills and techniques, but there's a huge mindset component too. We mentioned reframing mistakes, but it goes deeper. Be kind to yourself. Acknowledge progress. Fluency isn't an on-off switch. It's a continuum. Recognize how far you've come, not just how far you have to go. Celebrate small victories, understanding a joke, successfully navigating a phone call, using a new phrase correctly. Avoid comparison. Don't compare your progress to others. Everyone learns at a different pace, has different strengths, different amounts of time to dedicate. Focus on your own journey. Manage frustration. There will be frustrating days or weeks where you feel stuck. Plateaus. This is normal. Mix up your learning methods, revisit basics, or take a short break if needed, but don't give up. Remind yourself of your why. Why are you learning English? Find enjoyment. Connect English practice with things you love. Watch movies, listen to music, read books on topics you're passionate about. Talk about your hobbies. If it feels like a chore all the time, motivation will wane.
That self-compassion piece is vital. Learning a language makes you vulnerable. You're bound to feel silly or frustrated sometimes. Acknowledging that and being kind to yourself keeps you in the game long-term. And maybe a brief word on cultural nuances. Conversation isn't just words.
Good point, though it's a vast topic. Briefly be aware that communication styles vary. Things like small talk. Very common and important in many English speaking cultures, US, UK, as a way to build rapport before getting down to business. Topics are usually safe: weather, recent holidays, non controversial current events, directness, indirectness. Some cultures value directness, others prefer more indirect communication, especially when disagreeing or making requests, using modals like could, would, might. Turn taking and interrupting. Norms around when it's okay to interrupt or how long pauses are acceptable can differ. Generally, listen for cues that the speaker is finishing their thought. Politeness. Using please, thank you, sorry, excuse me is very important. Nonverbal cues. Eye contact, gestures, personal space. These also vary culturally but play a role in communication. Observe and adapt cautiously.
That's a helpful reminder that fluency includes pragmatic competence, knowing how to use language appropriately in social contexts. Wow, Emily, we have covered a massive amount of ground today.
We really have. It's a complex process with many interconnected parts: mindset, strategy, practice, resources. But the core message, I think, is that moving from passive knowledge to active, fluent speaking is absolutely achievable. It requires consistent effort, stepping outside your comfort zone, embracing imperfection, and finding ways to actively use the language regularly.
So, let's try and synthesize this deep dive into some key takeaways for our Speak Easy English listeners. 1. Aggressively reframe mistakes. See them as data, not failures. Ditch perfectionism. Aim for clear communication. 2. Master micro-interactions. Start with tiny, everyday exchanges to build foundational confidence. 3. Prepare strategically. Anticipate situations. Mine relevant language and mentally rehearse. 4. Become an active listener. Focus fully. Listen to understand, use cues, and crucially, ask for clarification without shame. 5. Proactively seek practice. Utilize language exchanges, tutors, clubs, hobby groups, make opportunities happen. 6. Leverage solo practice. Narrate your life, summarize content, argue topics, practice scenarios out loud. 7. Use voice recording analytically. Record short segments, listen for specific issues, fillers, pronunciation, grammar, fluency. Focus on one improvement area at a time. 8. Target comprehensibility in pronunciation. Focus on problem sounds, word, sentence stress, and natural intonation using resources and techniques like shadowing. 9. Activate vocabulary and grammar. Learn phrasal verbs, idioms, collocations in context. Use simpler grammar effectively. Practice communication strategies like circumlocution. 10. Cultivate a growth mindset. Be kind to yourself. Celebrate progress. Avoid comparison. Manage frustration. And find enjoyment in the process. 11th, be mindful of cultural nuances. Pay attention to small talk, politeness, nonverbal cues, and adapt gradually.
An excellent, comprehensive summary, Tommy. And truly, for everyone listening, this is a marathon, not a sprint. There's no magic bullet, but consistent, focused practice, combined with the right mindset, will absolutely lead to progress.
We genuinely hope this deep dive has provided not just information, but also motivation and a clearer roadmap for you. We'd be fascinated to hear your thoughts on this. What was the most helpful point for you today? What challenges are you currently facing in your speaking practice? What successes have you had recently, however small? Please share your journey in the comments section below the video on YouTube. The Speak Easy English community is here to support each other.
Yes, please do engage with us and with each other. Sharing experiences is so valuable. Thank you all so much for sticking with us through this long discussion. We hope it empowers you to take those next steps in your speaking journey.
Absolutely. Keep putting yourself out there, keep practicing, keep speaking. If you found this detailed conversation useful, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to Speak Easy English if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you're alerted about our future episodes.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and happy speaking.
Take care, everyone. Bye for now.